And now,
it's 10 a.m.
Let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. I think it's Thursday. Happy Thursday to everybody.
Masters Thursday.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. The Masters. I was aware of the Masters starting today.
Yeah.
Because the guy nobody likes is winning. Not Tommy Fleetwood, the other one.
Bryson DeChambeau?
No.
Oh.
No, the one everybody actually actively hates who cut off his parents.
A lot of athletes cut off their parents.
You don't know who Patrick Reed.
I don't think he's winning anymore.
No? He was a minute ago at 3 under. Good. I hope he bogeyed.
He's not. He's still 3 under.
He's still 3 under?
Kurt Kitayama, 4 under now, through 10.
Okay.
You a big Kurt guy?
No. No, I am not. The Masters is not. We talked to Bob, asked Bob if the Masters is his favorite, and he said yes, and there's obvious. I mean, that was the dumbest question ever. Bob's had a, kind of bond with the Masters since his dad won it, right? Yeah. I mean, so that makes some sense. It is not my favorite.
No.
And nor is the U.S. Open.
What's your favorite?
I'm going with the British.
Okay.
Or the Open Championship. Bob will join us at 11:30, by the way. But I kind of like the old school courses, and that's when golf originated. I think they make the U.S. Open way too hard.
Okay.
I guess the British being my favorite is more the process of elimination. I don't particularly like the Masters. I don't like it that they play the same easy course every year. And I don't know. I don't really like the Masters' behavior over the years.
Okay.
So that I don't really like that. So I'm set with the British because nobody cares about the PGA enough that they moved it, and I don't even think anybody noticed.
I'm with you that Augusta has not treated seemingly women or minorities particularly well historically.
Anybody not worth $1 billion, yeah.
That's not great. Clearly not great. There does feel, and I hope these two things aren't linked. I hope I am able personally to separate these things. It'd be a bad sign if I can't.
Uh-huh.
There is something that feels sacred about the Masters. Now, I hope that's not that it was because they left women and, was it African Americans out for a very long time.
Yeah, and pretty much everybody else in society.
So I hope that's not why I feel it's sacred, because that is a part of why people do keep those things sacred. You know, it's a little bit out like keeping snowboarders out. They're like trying to hold on to something. Snowboarding is far less important as far as what you're segregating. But I don't think there are a lot of things in sports that are sacred any longer.
Uh-huh.
And Masters does feel that way to me. So if they were to all of a sudden be like, even I think we saw blowback to it yesterday, if they started to change the course or whatever and just say like, hey, we're going to make it just an American championship and we're going to move it all around, or it's going to stay in the South, but we're going to go to Mar-a-Lago or something and play. I do think it would lose some of its sacredity or whatever the word is I'm looking for, whatever that feeling I get from it is. There's a lot of things that we're losing in sports that are sacred.
Well, the course is the major for sure. I mean, if they moved it around, it wouldn't be the Masters anymore.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a take about golf. An interesting place to start. Listen, if somebody gave me a membership to the Salt Lake Country Club, I'm not turning it down.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I've had an opportunity to play like a quote unquote exclusive place, I'm following the rules. I didn't have my shirt tucked in at Hidden Valley Country Club the one time I had a chance to play there. Oh, I got yelled at like the first 5 minutes before I even got to the clubhouse. Somebody was like, "Hey, tuck that shirt in." But let me say that part of golf is not my favorite part of golf.
I'm totally with you.
I think golf needs to be more accessible and it's more fun. And I guess golf tournaments don't need to be like the Waste Management, which I think is a little extreme, but it's a great sport and it hasn't been accessible to everybody.
It's really stuffy.
And the Masters represents
the stuffiest.
The stuffiest of the stuffy, the exclusiest. Not a word.
Yep.
Of the exclusive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the ultimate.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the exclusive.
it's what's his name in Caddyshack, the judge.
Yeah.
That part of golf I don't
I'm totally with you.
particularly love.
I don't subscribe to that. I don't either, and I like your take. I guess I'm curious because I wrestle with this because, we're talking about the NCAA tournament. Have we gotten any official news that the NCAA tournament expanded?
Vomit.
But all of these things we're doing, expanding the college football playoff, and that's a little less so because I'm not sure what we had before was particularly sacred. But, I don't mind strong tradition. And if you want to call that something being sacred, I don't mind strong tradition in sports. Sometimes I think because humans get this way, we just start to solidify and have a hard time adapting, even if the things that we're adopting, these adaptations, are positive. We kind of naturally push back on them. So I wonder how much of sports needs to remain, quote unquote, sacred or remain within its own tradition, or how much I just have a hard time as a human being adjusting to something. Because I am very fearful of cats in the wall.
See, that's the problem, is that the adjustments
Cat in the wall, eh?
sometimes are bad.
Yeah, a step backwards.
Sometimes good.
They are.
Most times bad. I don't like interleague play, for example. I thought, no. I'm just thinking of like
when did they start that?
In the early 90s.
Yeah,
or
right.
something.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time. But I'm trying to think of a major adjustment to a really stuffy sport, right? A sport
adding the DH across the league, across the entire Major League Baseball.
I thought one of the appeals of Major League Baseball, and particularly the World Series, and to a lesser extent the All-Star Game, was that these two independent leagues never played each other. Like, the only time you saw the Giants play the A's was in the World Series.
Sure.
I thought that was cool. There was some uniqueness. Each league had its own kind of personality and the way it played and its own rules, and I liked that. But that was a major adjustment to a stuffy sport. Thank you. That most people like. Mm-hmm. So that, by most accounts, would be a good one. Let's talk about the NBA, because more news was coming out yesterday about which way they're leaning in the solve tanking debate that's going to happen at the end of the year.
Tanking.
And what they're leaning toward is just flattening all the lottery odds.
Basically, yeah.
For teams that don't make the playoffs.
The bottom 10 teams will all have equal odds at the top pick. The next 4 teams have, or maybe it's the next 8 teams. They're going to expand it to 18 teams, at least is the thought. I kind of don't think they'll be that dramatic. But the next 8 teams will kind of split up the next group, or the remaining, what would that be, 20%? Which basically just guts any reason to be in the middle class of the NBA even further.
Yeah, and encourages now teams to tank out of the playoffs.
Yeah, you're going to have 10 teams tanking to the bottom now. And once one team says, I mean, I get that there's no reason to necessarily be 15 wins overall because you can have the 10th most wins and still get these lottery odds, not to get too lost in this conversation. But you are going to have teams just saying, okay, well, we got to be in the bottom 10. And now the 11th team is going to say, well, how do we get out of the bottom 11? Because why would we be one spot away from having a 2% chance of getting there or an 8% chance of getting there?
So all these anti-tanking cats that they've put in the wall, they should just not have done that.
Right. Cat in the wall, eh?
Doing nothing would have been better than the play-in games, than flattening the odds in the first place with the bottom 3, and this nonsense.
Yep.
It would have been better just to do nothing.
Yes, because you can go back and see the evidence that it was not as bad in yesteryear as it is today.
Right.
There is a correlation between the new rules you have put in and the response of the teams. And I think that correlation is causation. I don't think it's accidental.
See, but it's like back to the Masters. The Masters has this no phone policy where you can't take your phone if you're, and all this stuff. And it seems folksy and romantic, like, oh, step back into yesteryear. Don't be distracted by your phone. But the real reason they do that is so that you can't take any pictures, so that they can sell every image, video, whatever that is coming out of Augusta is directly controlled / owned by the country club. Like, I think
that's totally fair.
And they hide behind a folksy, you don't need your phone. You're at the Masters.
I think,
which is hilarious.
Everything about the Masters is what I don't like about a lot of sports. There's a lot of it that I really hate, and I can't find a way to separate what I find the romance of it still. And that is what they sell. I mean, that is why it is the biggest tournament.
The painted grass
Quite literally.
And the dyed river.
100%. And I know if you go, I'm sure it's cool. I'm sure it's a lot like every other golf tournament. And I'm sure, yes, for Bob, it really means a lot. I mean, his dad won it. It's a part of his life
take
forever.
Bob out of the conversation. But how do you know somebody went to the Masters?
Oh, they have the little visor or whatever. And they tell you about it within 5 minutes of meeting him.
Hey, did you know that I went to the Masters 12 years ago? And by the way, I'm still wearing the hat.
Would you believe how cheap the sandwich is? Yeah.
Let's talk about pimento cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the Masters.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, let's switch gears. I wish we had some like transition music or something. Lloyd was playing Wooly Bully yesterday. I kind of like that. Joining us now, he, of course, is part of the Mammoth broadcast, does a little radio, and, of course, on your television set, he's the one and only Nick Olczyk with us here on Jake and Ben. What's going on, Nick?
What's up, boys? A nice sunny day today here in Utah, and a big game tonight between two teams currently in the first and second wild card spot.
Nick, these dudes are flying. I mean, since we last talked, these guys are absolutely on fire, and I know the game against Edmonton was certainly very tough, but they emerged, and it feels like, in a sense to me, we're really seeing this team arrive and find its identity now 2 years after moving to Utah. I
would say so, and I think one of the other parts about that last win against the Edmonton Oilers was the stick-to-itiveness, the confidence under pressure, the confidence not wavering were really some things that came to mind, because there was a point in that game where the Edmonton Oilers were up 3-1, but Utah did not play high-risk hockey. They remained somewhat patient in their game, knowing that if they just stuck to it, they continued to do what they were doing up until that point. They were getting looks. It just couldn't execute at the level that they needed to, and they found a way to be able to come through in games like that. And you can't throw everything out the window and just turn it into a track meet, especially against an Edmonton Oilers team who very well could be the team that Utah plays in the first round. And if so, what an unbelievable series that's going to be. High-scoring series, I would definitely anticipate. But to me, it wasn't just the fact that they won. It was how they did. And in those moments when Edmonton was taking it to them, or when it ended up being like a tennis match back and forth, the Mammoth showed a tremendous resolve and found a way to get the job done in overtime, which they were led by their captain, who has had an unbelievable season. Was just recently nominated for the Masterton Trophy, which is awarded at the award ceremony this summer to the player who best shows perseverance. And we know all the things that Clayton Keller has gone through this year, losing his father. So really happy to see him coming through in overtime, and just a real character win. And I think a statement win, too. Not a statement win in the fact that they beat the Edmonton Oilers 5-0, but a statement win in that it was a 6-5 punch-counter-punch type of game, and they found a way to pick up that huge extra point, and it's exactly what they did.
So when we're examining playoff potential and that sort of thing, certainly in the NBA and football, probably in every sport, we lean into the old cliche about tiers, right? Like, what are the tiers of contenders? Like, these are the best and second best, et cetera. How would you do that with the Western Conference this year? Where would you put the Mammoth in tiers of chances of winning it all?
If I'm being completely honest, guys, and look, I'm not just saying this because I'm grateful and blessed to work for the organization, but there's really not a team that really scares me all that much. I mean, finally they were able to beat the Oilers, who had kind of been a little bit of a bugaboo as they had not beaten them yet in franchise history. But I think even if you look at the top team in the entire league, the Colorado Avalanche, who have been pacing the NHL and pacing the Central Division for sure all season long, really not even the Avalanche scare me all that much, because the Mammoth have matched up against them extremely well, not just this year, but even dating back to last year. And I think a big reason why is because Utah can really skate with them. There's not a ton of other teams in the league that have as much speed as the Mammoth do. And so you're going up against the likes of Makar and McKinnon and Marty Natchez. You need guys that, yes, are good enough to defend against them, but the first step is, guys, well, can you even keep up with them? And Utah has those players. They have that ability to be able to skate with the Avs. And then from there on out, I mean, just there's really not another team that really scares me. So, are the Utah Mammoth going to win the Stanley Cup this year? I mean, yeah, we all hope that's going to be the case. But the first step is just making the playoffs, and we've seen it in any sport. Just get in, get to the dance, and you never know what can happen. So with how it's going to match up right now, if the playoffs started today, it would be Edmonton and Utah in the first round, and certainly the Oilers have been a very volatile team this year in terms of scoring a lot, but also giving up a lot of goals as well, with some very shaky goaltending, some pedestrian defending at times. But in terms of tiers, I think once you get into the postseason, it's a whole new season. I really believe that, because we've seen back in the day when it was 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, so on and so forth. I mean, we've seen an 8-seed go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. So the regular season is one thing, but once you do get into the postseason, boys, I am such a big believer is that, does the game completely change? No, but it changes enough to where the playing field is very much level. And all we have to do is look back a couple of seasons when the Boston Bruins set a single-season record for the most points in a regular season with 134. And what was the end result? Well, they lost in the first round. So, yes, what you do in the regular season counts, because that's going to lead to home ice through the entirety of the playoffs for a team like the Colorado Avalanche. It's going to give, if the playoffs started today, home ice for Dallas over Minnesota as that central division matchup. But in terms of tiers, in terms of team ranking going into it, I really think all of that goes out the window once you do get to the postseason, because the rink shrinks, every shift becomes that much more important, and you never know. You get a hot goaltender on your team, or you run into one, that could be the difference maker throughout a 7-game series.
Nick, before we start, counting how many postseason victories the Mammoth can get, can you give us some context of what it actually just means? I mean, they have almost guaranteed to punch their ticket with a win tonight over Nashville, and I believe a Ducks win. They would be in tonight. They can guarantee that spot. Yeah. What does it mean to make the playoffs in the NHL? Because Jake and I cover the NBA, and it's almost a joke now. Teams actively avoid the 8th spot. They try to not make the playoffs. What does it mean to make the playoffs in the NHL? And then B, what does it mean for this organization, including its time back in Arizona, which struggled as long as it did?
Yeah, I think this most importantly, I would love to answer the second question first, and that, this organization has done everything right to give these players, to give this hockey operations group the best chance to win. And that starts with Ryan and Ashley Smith for putting everything that they possibly can into this team. And we're really starting to see that this really is a gift to the great state of Utah, something to rally around, and most importantly, a team to be proud of, players to be proud of, an organization that is out in the community and that you could be very, very proud of to work for, but also to root for and to support for 82-plus nights a season. And I can't wait. And again, there's still some moving parts that need to happen. As you had alluded to, a win in regulation tonight against Nashville, and if Anaheim beats San Jose in any fashion, that would officially put Utah into the playoffs. But I am most excited because I have been so fortunate to be around the game ever since I was a child, and growing up in Chicago, having seen the unbelievable dynasty type of run that the Blackhawks went on, winning 3 cups in 6 seasons, and just the buzz around town at that time, the growth of the game, the fact that I would see Chicago Blackhawk paraphernalia and merchandise every corner I walked around the city, around the suburbs, around the country. But just getting to the postseason, what I'm most excited for is playoff hockey at the Delta Center, because that place was just quite simply rocking last game against Edmonton, which very much had a playoff feel. Every single home game this season, it has been an amazing place to be, an amazing place to watch a hockey game. And two, the important part about playoffs is every single shift, every single shot, every single save, and every hit matters that much more. And so for this team and for this city to get to the postseason, knowing that maybe there hasn't been a lot of professional sports playoff implications here in the last couple of years, it is going to be something extremely special. And I think for these players, they've been through a lot of tough times in the prior stop where they were. There wasn't much success. Maybe there wasn't a lot of investment. And so now they're part of a group. They're part of an organization that wants to give the very best that they possibly can to them. And I'm pumped for when this does happen, because I think it will. That being a postseason berth, but also really excited for the great Mammoth fans, both here in Utah and all around the world. Because I'll tell you what, that there is nothing like playoff hockey, and then there's nothing like being at a playoff hockey game. And so they position themselves in a great spot. And lastly, boys, just getting in is all you need. I don't think you're worried about seeding. If you're up and you're Dallas or you're Minnesota and those two teams play each other tonight and they're separated by just 2 points, okay, then you're starting to worry about, all right, home ice, not home ice, what's going to be the designation there. But if you're Utah, you're in a wild card spot, you just want to get in, and then when you do get to the dance, you get to show off your moves and hopefully make some noise.
So the other night, Nick, I am like 75% sure that you walked right by my studio while I was doing a Jazz game. So I've got an exercise for us. Next time you walk into the radio studio through that back door and you're walking down, look to your left. If you see a couple of bozos in there doing whatever, open the door, and I want you to say the University of Indiana and Will Trubshaw both stink. And then we'll know. And we can meet face to face.
Okay. All right. I will think about that. I'm a big fan of Will Trubshaw, and boys, my mom is a native from Indiana, so I'm gonna have to give it a little bit more of a thought, but I will, if I can, and if I recognize, I will stop in.
Will, of course, is the incredibly mediocre producer of the Mammoth radio broadcast, who I actually like very much. Thank you, Nick. As always, we appreciate it, and we'll be watching.
Anytime, boys. Keep up the great work, and hoping for a win in regulation for the boys in Mountain Blue, and keeping a close eye on that Anaheim-San Jose game, because if the Ducks win, the Sharks lose, and Utah wins in regulation, that means we're going to have some playoff hockey here in the great state of Utah. And all I'm going to tell our great fans out there is when, not if, that happens, buckle up and make sure that you cancel any plans the night of games, because there is nothing like playoff hockey in the National Hockey League.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
See you, boys.
There you go, the one and only Nick Olczyk, who's nice enough to join us on Thursdays.
Magic number for the Mammoth is 4 points. So they need either to win 2 games or, yes, get 2, and then, as they mentioned, in regulation, and have San Jose lose. They'll lock it up. Your
guy, Patrick Reed, in front by 2 strokes now.
Okay.
He's 5 under.
He's back.
2 up on Fleetwood.
You got a good push. Happy for him.
Are you?
No.
Top 3 stores of the day at KSLSports.com coming up next. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the top 3 stories of the day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I love it that you so liberally use the term cut now. I feel I'm going to take responsibility for that, because it is what happens. And people like to soften it with language like release.
Contract ended.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's time for the top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. Would you ever get cut from the skate squad?
No, it's a great
skate
thing.
team?
You do it by yourself. They can't cut you.
Well, what about the competitions? That's a team thing, right?
No. I was on a team, a company.
Did they
rode
cut
for.
you?
I just kind of stopped going in and I stopped skateboarding and then I wasn't on the website anymore.
Got to tell you, getting cut, the worst. It's a terrible feeling.
I believe it. That's why I never tried. I was too worried about it.
Are they nicer to kids now where they don't just put up a piece of paper in front of everybody?
I suspect they have, they text you now if you made it.
Running up to the paper and be like, did I make it? Nope.
No, you didn't.
Sure didn't. All right. Sean's in for Christian today. Sean, where do you want to start?
Number 1, Kennard Davis enters the transfer portal.
BYU loses another starter. Obviously, we know about Kennard Davis's DUI while he was at BYU this year, but was on the floor for most of the games, and I thought was pretty effective. Again, it's so weird just how it doesn't matter what you did last year at all. It doesn't matter what you did a week ago. I mean, the entire roster every year is going to change. It's so unbelievably broken how ugly this is. And that's not to say, but in each individual case, it's not excusable. I totally understand why Kennard Davis would move on or why BYU would move on from Kennard Davis. And same with, any number of players you want to bring up. Yeah. In all honesty, it's crazy that, I saw 2 days ago just some stupid Facebook AI post that was like BYU's projected starting lineup in 2027. Every single one of them is gone now, it seems like. Yeah. Every single one of the players is gone.
That is nothing unique to BYU.
No, it's not. No, it's entirely college basketball.
And you know what? Easy come, easy go. What's the rumor now? Colin Chandler is, speaking of a basketball player with the last name Chandler. We were talking about Kennedy Chandler off the air, I suppose.
Yeah.
But Colin Chandler is in the transfer portal coming from Kentucky. Once a BYU commit, right, that Pope took with him after his mission. And, maybe there's a top player coming in. I don't like it either. I don't like it one bit, and I don't like following it. No offense to Kennard Davis, but you're now off of my radar. I don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. You're gone. You're out the door and you're gone. It doesn't matter.
But look at where Michigan got its players. The Mara came from UCLA, and the point guard with the French name. What am I? Cadeau. You know where he came from? North Carolina.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, I mean, if it's
Lindenborg
happening,
came from UAB, yeah.
If it's happening to UCLA and North Carolina,
sure. Yes, yeah, UAB is going to get poached.
It's happening,
but if North Carolina is getting poached,
it's happening to everyone.
Yep. Or
and because
Colin Chandler leaving Kentucky,
because they're going to throw out a number, and BYU or whoever is going to get there or they're not. I mean, it's just. Now you have this extra calculation in the decision of, well, we like your game, but we don't like it that much.
And the money people would be truly shocked at the money that's going on.
I don't think they would be. I think people are beyond shocked at this. I mean, what was Fingernails making at USC, and that was several years ago.
Yeah. No, I think there are a lot of average players making over $1 million a year. I think there are a lot of people who would be surprised at how many mediocre players are getting $1 million to come in and fill a role,
Yeah, because it's how you play it. It's why these guys are transferring.
No, I totally get it. If I were a player, I'd be doing the exact same thing.
That guy who walked off the USC team was making over $1 million. It was like his sixth school.
Yeah. Well, I remember Dalton Kincaid. The rumor was he got offered $1 million. And I know that's a different sport, and you have 100 college football players. And hearing the rumor that Dalton Kincaid was getting $1 million offer to transfer from Utah to Alabama, it's just nothing now. I mean, there are very average players in college basketball that are making far more than that.
And I'll say this, I cannot believe that there are just the richest of the rich people willing to set this amount of money on fire.
Burn the money.
Is wild.
Just light their cash on fire.
I mean, I wish I could get there. I'd like to think I'd spend my money on something more productive for me than donating it to an NIL, but whatever. Yeah. Like if I had the ability just to scratch off a $50 million check, I think I'm using that $50 million to like buy into a yacht or something.
Do something else.
Yeah.
Do something other than pay the
invest it.
Missouri Valley Conference's third-ranked point guard to make $2 million to transfer up to my school. Yeah, I'm with you.
And, the method, speaking of scratch a check, you remember Kenny Dilly begging for money and saying, we just need a really rich person to scratch a check. You're going to go back to that rich person the next year. That's the funny thing. Is like, oh, yeah, I carved you off a $20 million check last year. Dilly's going to be like...
You have a little more?
Well, where's this year's 20,
Do you
bro?
have a lot more? Yep.
Yeah, not only do we need this year's 20, but we need an extra 10 on the top.
20 was good last year. It's not enough this year.
We got a linebacker we need to land. It's
obviously unsustainable.
I can't imagine having that much dough where you can just carve off that kind of money every single year. Like whoever cut the check for AJ DiBonta, like that person's not done. I mean, they got to go back to the well to land the next guy.
And again, the weird thing about this is the inflation of the cost of these players is moving up so dramatically. To bring up our point about Dalton Kincaid, that was a great player. Dalton was great when he was being offered that transfer already and was only getting $1 million. You paid whatever $1 million for AJ DiBonta. Now Bruce Branch III is going to cost that much. Well, Bruce Branch III is not the same player as AJ DiBonta. Not that caliber of recruit.
Nor do we know if he costs that much.
No, we don't. But, you look at what Xavion Stanton apparently made to transfer to BYU, and that was the 30th ranked player in the state or in the country who didn't play at all. And that price continues to go up for these guys to get them out of high school or get these transfers. So
they had to probably double the ham sandwich and chips the G League guy was making.
Yeah.
They probably had to upgrade that to like a tin of lasagna or something.
He probably made decent money to transfer in and was awful.
Well, I'm
unplayable.
More making a comment about just how poorly they pay
G League players.
$45
$45,000. Yeah. Yeah, I get why those G League players are trying to get to the college basketball.
Probably a huge pay increase.
We got $100,000, and for a lot of schools, they're like, yeah, $100,000 for a center.
Playing in Sioux Falls for a bag of peanuts after the game.
Gladly go to BYU or wherever. Leave the G League. No chance I'm ever leaving college.
That's really, totally different discussion, and we've got to move on. But that's the flaw with the G League. It's just not funded well enough to truly do
college basketball could kill the G League.
They wanted to do.
College basketball absolutely might kill the G League.
Well, it already killed G League Ignite. Yeah. All right, Sean, what's next?
Number 2, Utah Mammoth continue their playoff push tonight against the Predators.
Just talked to Nick Olczyk in the last segment. If you missed that interview, you can go find it at kslsports.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. And the big news tonight, if the Mammoth beat the Nashville Predators in regulation and the Ducks beat the San Jose Sharks in any form, overtime or otherwise shootout, the Mammoth will clinch their playoff spot. But considering they're already at this point with, 5 games left to play on the season,
they're going to get there.
It's a matter of time.
It looks like.
It could happen as soon as tonight, which would be awesome, but it's going to happen.
Just can't go in the tank.
Can't lose every remaining game and have all the teams around you basically win every remaining
Everybody's
game.
making a huge deal about this differential thing. Talking about the stat, and the differential right now is the Mammoth plus 31. That this is the highest differential this franchise, including Phoenix, has ever had. Which I don't know how much that matters. Like in basketball, people like to look at the differential. I don't think it matters at all. I think it's a flawed stat to begin with.
Well, it's clearly a flawed stat.
I'd be curious if it means a little bit more in hockey.
See, I think it would mean the opposite in hockey. I think
less?
I think it means less. Yeah, I think it means less in hockey than it does in basketball, personally. I could be totally wrong. Maybe it's just because I cover basketball so much more closely. But, over time, it really does bear out who the best teams are in basketball. Your differential generally is a good indicator of, the Oklahoma City Thunder are way better than everybody and they blow everybody out. Hockey has so much more luck in a game where you can accidentally go win 5-1 or 4-0 or score 7 goals or 6+ goals in 4 straight games that all of a sudden you're getting a ton of points. Now, I know the Mammoth haven't been blowing teams out in all of these games, and that doesn't help your differential if you're scoring 7 and they're only scoring 6, but I do feel like there are more there are so many fewer goals over the course of a season, obviously, than NBA points, that I do feel like that can look different. The Sabres are the top team right now in the Eastern Conference. They're plus 39. Tampa Bay is right behind them, and they're plus 60. They're 20 points better. So maybe Tampa Bay is way better. I don't know. That will be something worth watching. But yes, to your point, in the Western Conference, the Mammoth actually have the 4th best point differential. They're at plus 31. Only Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota are ahead of them. So if you wanted to use that as the measure, this is a top half team in the Western Conference. and they're fighting for the play-in.
Yeah, well, I mean,
or for the wild card.
Points, the record would also indicate that because they have the, fifth best record in the Western Conference.
Yeah. So maybe that is closer to where they are. Maybe we are talking more about a 4th seed, 5th seed type of team versus, what we're kind of looking at it as a, 7th or 8th trying to squeak in.
Next.
The Masters are underway. Patrick Reed is back on top.
And we need to turn on the mouse because the Golf Channel just has guys warming up. And as much as I love J.J. Spawn, I don't need to watch him at the range. Remember, a Golf Channel, do you have something better than people at the range?
No.
Patrick Reed is your leader. 5 under par through 9 holes. Tommy Fleetwood is a shot back at 4 under par. And then several golfers knotted up there at 2 under.
We'll catch up with Bob Casper coming up at 11:30.
Yeah, we'll see what Bob's keeping an eye on. Rory McIlroy, by the way, is even through 7. Just trying to look at for some other notables. I also like looking down at the notables on the negative front, like who's having the worst round.
Okay, who's going to miss the cut? Do we know?
Like
very early.
Angel Cabrera, 6 over through 15.
Yeah.
Your guy, Bubba Watson, 5 over through 12.
Oh, okay. He spent some time at the Jazz facility this year, right?
Did he?
I think he's friends with Will Hardy.
Oh, really? That's kind of fun.
Well, I think he's friends with Ryan Smith, and Ryan's parlayed that to a relationship with Will. I could be totally wrong.
Vijay Singh is still golfing. And at
still alive.
5 over through 13. Cameron Young, 4 over through 7. Yikes! Oh, that's a bad start. Our guy, Mike Weir, 3 over through 4.
Okay.
I do think that's cool about the Masters is if you win it, you get to play in it forever.
Yeah.
I like
Forever
that.
invite.
Like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, nobody else. Zach Johnson is even. Sergio is even.
I don't care about ratings for sports in general. It doesn't affect me at all. I will be curious to see how this latest with not having, Tiger around or Phil around, if it does anything for the Masters ratings.
Well, neither one of those guys was going to be in contention.
No, but Tiger is a draw, regardless.
Still?
Yeah.
When he won the PGA, what was that, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? Like, if he's in contention, sure. But if he's just out there hacking it up, who cares?
People watch. People tune in for Tiger.
Stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. As we mentioned, Bob Casper at 11:30 for more coverage of the Masters. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top. Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. We can talk some basketball playoff picture coming up. We don't have a ton of time in this segment, Ben, but I've told you my hot take before that the Olympics should rotate between like 4 locations.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. You could pick one a continent or something.
Yeah.
But not.
It's more continents than 4, but yeah.
No, I know. I'm adjusting, saying, or you can do whatever.
Yeah.
You don't need to give Antarctica anything, and maybe skip Australia. They don't need to be hosting every 4 years. Oh, but the Sydney Olympics were really
it was
good.
successful.
Yeah. Did you see? And the pictures are just wild. That a fire broke out yesterday at Rio de Janeiro's Olympic Park, the Velodrome. Oh wait, the Velodrome. Yeah. Apparently, the roof on the thing is fabric. I mean, look at this.
Oh, wow.
Look at that picture.
Yeah, that's dramatic.
These countries that really can't afford to build the infrastructure for the Olympics. And then you wonder, I mean, Rio, if you remember the prep for Rio, it was a disaster. Like, they weren't sure if they were going to be able to do the distance swims because the water was so polluted.
Yeah.
And it came down to the last second to complete. I don't know if this is one of them, but some of the venues were like the last day before they were constructed. And, the Olympics just, The great country of Brazil, I'm sure, has better things to be spending its money on than these crazy venues that are never going to be used again. And then to the point where I don't know how badly maintained this facility was, but I got to guess that a fire this big is not started in a well-maintained building. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. So this is the second time, at least, this building has caught on fire, the roof. And the previous, two similar blazes previously were the cause of paper sky lanterns, which are just those little paper balloons you light and they take off because heat in a fire allows something to float. Something that small landing on the roof of a fabric building has caused it to burn down multiple times, which, maybe it's time to start regulating where you're flying your paper lanterns. I'm not for taking away paper lanterns, but maybe not right next to the paper stadium.
The flammable stadium?
You have right next door. But, yeah, that's not a great look.
No, pick 4 or 5 for the summer, pick 4 or 5 from the winter, and just rotate it. And that way people aren't pouring billions of dollars into facilities that are only going to get used
You're updating facilities,
once.
but you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
A great part of the Olympics coming back to Salt Lake, and I mean this, is we don't have to do a whole lot.
No.
I'm sure we've got to refit some stuff and renovate some stuff. I haven't been out to the Oval in Kearns lately, but I mean, it's a great facility. They probably don't have to do a whole lot, you know? I go up to the Olympic Park semi-frequently, and they don't have to do anything to that.
Delta
really.
Center's still in very good shape.
And going to be even better shape by the
in
time
fact, the
Olympics.
practice facilities for the Mammoth will probably serve as something for people to train.
Right.
Great. That was natural infrastructure that was built.
It's not going to overstretch the national budget to host the Olympics for Salt Lake, you know, or LA for that matter, or Atlanta. If you want to talk about places that have held the summer games, you know, over in London, they could probably reboot their stuff and host again.
Yeah.
I don't know what the condition is of the like Beijing, for example, but, you know, pick a few venues that did it well, refit their stuff, and just hold it there.
Probably a couple of places that really taped everything together just to get through the Olympics, and then everything collapsed.
Why on earth was the Olympics going to Sochi, Russia?
Yeah.
It doesn't even snow in Sochi.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
I could see us getting there.
Why are we hosting World Cups in Qatar?
Yeah. And it's getting so expensive to do. Yeah, if you have a place that can already host it, only needs, a fraction of the cost to upgrade everything, it's not a bad idea.
And countries like Brazil, how much did they actually benefit from the Olympics? I mean, they probably got some people, like the advertising value of the Olympics is huge. We know that.
But no, to your point, no one's like, where I want to go? Sochi.
Yes, that's a great example.
I saw it on TV. I can't wait to go. Now, maybe you hope people come to Salt Lake, or, did Paris need the advertising dollars?
It probably helped.
Probably stimulated the economy a little.
But in Brazil or other places, like, there were other priorities. Like, let's pour that into the drinking water first, and then we can start talking about...
We can save for our own people to swim.
Then we can start talking about Olympics.
Don't worry about the Olympians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
We'll worry about the tourism that comes after, like let's button up some basics. Let's work on the sewage system.
First, yeah.
Let's get that buttoned up. Anyway, that's just my hot take.
I think that's fair.
Like pick 4 or 5 venues and that's it.
I'm excited for them to come back here.
But then the Olympic Committee can't take the bribes, so that's probably why they don't do it. I mean, you ask yourself, how does the Olympics end up in Sochi, Russia? The answer is because
got scholarships.
They were incentivized to pick Sochi, Russia.
Yep.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll talk about how the NBA playoff race is sorting up. If Ben wants to give us an update on the bottom of the league,
love to.
I guess
some big games tonight. Would you believe it? Kind of.
No, I don't want to talk about it. We can talk about the bad solutions for it.
Okay.
We'll get to some NBA talk coming up next. It's Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Who's got it better than us? Nobody!
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. We can talk about standings and all that stuff in a second, but you and I talked off the air. I know you read ESPN's expose on tanking, and I'm curious for your on-air reaction. If you did not read it, ESPN used every writer that they employ to compound a novel describing how different teams have managed to tank this season. Is that a accurate assessment?
Sure. Yeah. Yes, that's good enough. You're not mislabeling what it is.
I read it while I was getting my oil changed, and I'm not kidding you that my oil change took less time than it took me to read
it while I was getting my haircut.
That ESPN thing.
I did the exact same thing. All right. You know what my first thought is? When I pull up the image, and you can see it on social media, or you can go to ESPN.com.
The Jazz were a part of it, by the way.
They start off the
talking
entire
about
thing.
it. Yeah.
Here's my problem. Left to right on the graphic of the photo that's attached to the story, Adam Silver, Doug Christie, Will Hardy. So this prompted a tweet from me yesterday, which was, it's actually kind of unfair that coaches are becoming the face of tanking. Now, look, coaches know what's going on. Coaches know what the agenda of the team is. As we have seen with Brent Brown and a lot of coaches.
Mark Daigneault.
And Daigneault has succeeded and come out the other side. Coaches can get fired for anything. Brown did the entire process with the 76ers. Bought the agenda, hook, line, and sinker. Hid it or didn't hide it. I don't even remember how he talked about it, to be honest with you. The second they got good again, they fired Brent Brown and went and got a guy they thought would help them get to a higher level.
And Sam Hinkie, by the way, the GM.
Correct. So I actually do have a little bit of an issue with Will Hardy becoming the face of this for the Utah Jazz, or Doug Christie, even though we can go back and relitigate whether he's just a bad coach or whether he actually fouled to put the Golden State Warriors
It is
up.
funny that the defense is I'm a moron.
I'm a dumb guy. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to use my timeouts. I'm just my fouls, and I'm a bad coach.
What can I tell
What
you?
can I say? I do actually dislike that, because if Will Hardy went rogue
Like that?
doing anything, he wouldn't have a job.
I don't think he won't be the face of it unless he gets fired.
No, and in fact, Jazz fans will be happy. The other issue of this is fans are totally on board with all of this. Not every Jazz fan loves this. In fact, I don't think any Jazz fan loves this, but fans totally understand, which, by the way, does get explained quite a bit in the article of how so many executives off the record, or I should say anonymously, say, but yeah, what are you supposed to do? This is the right way to do it.
The way to build
this
it.
really works. So that was my initial read. As I do feel not bad. I mean, Will Hardy makes a fortune. Doug Christie's making a fortune right now to coach teams that are not being judged on wins and losses. But as you have said a lot, do you think these guys care about their win and loss totals? It's like, yeah, they should.
They
have
definitely
to.
do.
They do.
Yeah.
And they hope they have some security to get past this. It would be a real bummer if Will Hardy's only coaching opportunity in the NBA is spoiled because he took over a team who was tanking, and then people are going to say, he's 100 and 250 in his career.
Yeah.
100 wins, 250 losses. Like, why do we want that guy?
Mark, was it you or Tim? Sometimes I get you confused. Who pointed out that Mark Daigneault just passed career 500?
Oh, it was not me.
I think it was last year in the finals. So his record was sub 500 until last year in the finals. We could look that up.
Yeah, I totally believe it.
I think that's what Tim said. I mean, it's going to take a long time to stack up wins just to get back to 500.
You remember Luke Walton had a
career
perfect
coach.
winning percentage because he took over for the Golden State Warriors when Steve Kerr's back was hurt. So that it is a stupid thing we judge people on, and Luke Walton did parlay that into a head coaching job. I think 2 head coaching jobs, right?
Yeah,
LA
the Lakers and the Kings.
And the Kings.
The Kings
so
don't.
stupid.
They don't count. Didn't he harass some lady too, and that's why he left the Kings?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But additionally,
so the Kings didn't even fire him for being a bad coach. Think about that for a second.
Right? Yeah. It wasn't that you can't win a game.
It was
because you're a creep.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, I guess, they do identify Anderson Garcia and Bez Mbang, and I don't even know if they mentioned Kennedy Chandler necessarily, but they do talk about how the in vogue way of tanking right now is playing guys on 10-day contracts or 2-way contracts to lose games because Bez Mbang, the Jazz have been outscored by 70 points in his 170 minutes. Or Anderson Garza. The Jazz are minus 146 this season with Bez Mbang on the court. And Bez has played more with the Jazz than he did his actual G League team. So you go and you sign players who are not NBA players, and you give them an opportunity under the guise of an opportunity, and you play them a lot to lose the game. I mean, Bez Mbang played the entire 48 minutes against New Orleans Pelicans, and that's part of what they talk about here. And they don't blame the Jazz for doing this. They say that this was actually something the Thunder did. They kind of perfected this, and the Thunder were the ones that got here. So big picture, I don't know if there's major significant takeaways here, other than we are getting back into the tanking zeitgeist of that being a part of the conversation nationally, which again will go away next week once we get to the playoffs. And it's just kind of this roller coaster ride. And then we'll come back up on May 28th when the governors are holding their vote of how to fix this thing.
Can I tell one thing I did like about the ESPN novel is they did do that. They laid out that the Thunder had done it before. So what I'm about to say, they did try and hedge against that. But well, let me use this story. Did I ever tell you about my cousin's dog, Buddy the Beagle?
You've mentioned Buddy,
the unkillable dog. It had many things that happened in his life that should have cost him his life. But he lived with me and my cousin years ago. This old beagle, and I'm telling you what, it had. He had tumors. The beagle had tumors, and it was obvious that Buddy was not well. And I told my cousin, I said, "You got to take Buddy to the vet, dude." And my cousin's like, "No, they're just going to make me put Buddy down. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do that." So then my uncle got to the point in his life where he could take Buddy back because Buddy was actually my uncle's dog. And then my uncle saw Buddy and goes, "Oh my gosh, we got to get this dog to a vet." They took, I can't even remember what the weight was in tumor that they took off of Buddy, but it was like a third of his body weight.
Yeah.
It was something wild. And Buddy survived to live on years after. My point is, the tumors didn't just magically show up when my uncle noticed it.
Correct.
They had been there for quite some time. I hate the alarmism of this like it's some new problem. Like it's some new thing that the NBA has to extinguish immediately because the world is going to come to an end tomorrow. Like this, I told you off the air, my biggest problem with this ESPN piece, none of it was new. There was not any new information whatsoever. There was a couple of interesting quotes, and the rest is just examples of a problem that has been around since the 70s and the 80s, or really the 80s if you want to get into like when the lottery first went in and all that. But you could argue it was worse in the 70s. I told you about the Tim Donaghy doc that I rewatched on Netflix. And Tim was given a tip to one of the gamblers and said, bet against this team because they're not trying to win because they're looking for a draft pick. That was like 2008?
Right.
2009? So even I appreciate the at least moderate throwback to Oklahoma City saying that they did it too and this isn't anything new.
They do focus on OKC a lot.
And I do agree that coaches / GMs have probably gotten better at tanking over the decades. But even the methods that Oklahoma City and the Jazz, for that matter, are employing have been employed by teams before, benching players in the second half and fourth quarter and all that stuff. It's been going on forever. So my fear is, Ben, is that we're casting so much attention onto it and we're acting like the world is on fire that they're going to make a bad decision to fix it, which is exactly what they're going to do.
Correct.
They would be better off ignoring it altogether. And just saying, what problem are you talking about? I now know why they have dealt with this forever with, I don't know what you're talking about. Because, frankly, it's the easier way to go to not have to do something drastic and stupid. By acknowledging it and by ESPN putting so much attention on it, now they have to do something about it.
Correct.
And they're going to screw it up even more.
Do I think it's a problem? Yes, it is a tumor on Buddy's belly or whatever it is. It absolutely is. It definitely is. And it's better if you remove the tumors from Buddy's body than to just ignore it and continue to get worse if you think it's actually getting worse. But absolutely, Adam Silver is drawing more attention to it than it probably, I don't know if then it deserves, but Adam Silver has created a headache for himself by creating it as the biggest issue in the NBA right now, the biggest problem in the NBA right now.
And to fix it, they truly would have to do something extremely drastic, which I don't think that they are prepared to do. So it would actually be better if they did nothing, which is what they've done for 30 years.
In fact, I
40
think
years.
Where I would disagree with you is the things they have done, these half measures, have only made the problem worse.
Oh, yeah, it's a great point. They have done something. The wrong thing.
Yeah, the wrong thing.
That hasn't helped at all.
So now you either have to undo all of that and go back to where you were 15 years ago and say, look, we know it's a problem. We know teams can take advantage of it, but it's not worth it to have that many teams trying to game the system, which is the problem now, is that there are so many teams trying to game the system. Absolutely right. But again, the only reason that's the case is because Adam Silver has made it advantageous for that many teams to do it. Previously, it was only advantageous for 3 or 4 teams to do it. And it's really hard to be one of those 3 or 4 teams. You have to set out from day one to be one of those teams. Now you have teams that can kind of, what's the term I'm looking for that's appropriate? Ease into it midway through the season. Jazz eased into it twice to start this rebuild. Jazz, as we mentioned yesterday, were 500. I think at one point they were 26 and 27. And their first year, I think the Jazz were 31 and 31, if I remember correctly.
Will's first year.
And then they kind of just said, well, we'll pull the plug late and we'll
made a big trade,
coast easily into the 10th pick or the 9th pick. And now, that 10th pick or 9th pick, if you're the Mavericks, you move up to the number 1 spot. It's a really advantageous spot to be. It's actually not a bad bet the Jazz made. They just didn't win the lottery those years. Atlanta kind of eased into it and moved up and got the number 1 overall pick. And they didn't get a good player out of it, but regardless, they were able to move up. So there are a lot of teams that are saying every single time, hey, we might as well settle into the 8th spot or the 9th spot because Dallas moved up with a 2% chance. And they're saying that with a 2% chance. In fact, it was 1.8%. And the NBA solution was, okay, enough. We're going to give you an 8% chance. Yeah. The teams were doing it for 1.8% chance. And your solution is to quadruple those odds?
Oh, we did half a show, unfortunately, on Sacramento winning a game over point whatever percent chance to get whatever.
Yeah.
By the way, if the Jazz, or anybody for that matter, are really sweating these minute percentage points, they must agree with me that the lottery is rigged. They must.
Yes. The only way you could actually be worried about 0.6% chance is that you think it's rigged and that if Adam Silver has a single bit of daylight to take a pick away from the Jazz, which, by the way, would also mean 4 other teams jump all the other teams in the lottery ahead of them. That means you're also
screwing Sacramento and
Washington, Indiana. And by the way, if Indiana loses their pick, if Indiana gets jumped by 4 teams, which would have to happen if the Jazz get jumped by 4 teams, that pick goes to the Clippers. So now you've got your Galaxy brain has Adam Silver rewarding the Clippers who are actively cheating with Kawhi Leonard. You do kind of have to pick which side of the coin you're going to be on here, which maybe he is.
But if you're that worried about that small percentage of chance,
your only belief is that the lottery is rigged.
You have got to believe it's rigged.
Yeah. You have to believe every time you don't win the actual lottery, the whatever it's called, multimillionaire lottery, that it's rigged against you, even though the odds are overwhelmingly in the favor of you never winning.
That's what I've never understood about people living and dying with every win and loss. It's like you're talking about minute percent chances at anything. You've got a long shot no matter what. And so you're living and dying with 1 game or 2 games. And I get it if you are truly up against it, losing your pick. But the Jazz are not up against it to lose their pick.
At all.
At all.
Now, if you are of that mindset, there is a game tonight that you should watch, or at least pay attention to, and I will just lay it out for you because you opened the door for it. The Pacers do play the Nets tonight.
I know you've been dying to do it.
The Pacers do play the Nets tonight.
Closer than anyone else out there. In fact, I am talking about you when I'm saying living and dying with every night and every game. You are dialed into the Kings right now.
I am dialed into the Kings right now. But there's a reason for it. Not because I'm going to cover the Sacramento Kings. That has nothing to do with it. The Pacers do play the Nets tonight. If the Nets win, they will pull even with the Jazz and the Kings at 21 wins. And that would then create a 3-way tie, potentially by the end of the season. There's still 2 games left for both the Jazz and the Kings the rest of the year. And you would go to a spot where, again, it would be a random drawing among the 3 teams. The Jazz would just have to not get last among those 3 teams in the random drawing, and they would be guaranteed to hold on to their pick. So that is the one thing you're kind of looking for tonight.
To wipe that 0.6 off.
To wipe that 0.6 off. And even then,
That
you're
we're
not
so worried
guaranteed
about.
to wipe it off tonight. It just gives you a slightly better chance to wipe that 0.6 away.
And finally, I can go back to sleeping soundly.
You can sleep well after that. And then tomorrow, yes, the Jazz play the Grizzlies. And the Kings are playing the Golden State Warriors. Now, the offshoot of what's happening with Doug Christie, and now having to deny that he was tanking by fouling the Golden State Warriors, there actually is a world where he has to go and try and put it on the Golden State Warriors next year to show entirely that they're not tanking, to prove fully that this is not a tank. We're not tanking. In fact, look at how much we're not tanking. We're going to beat the Golden State Warriors, and it's going to hurt us in the standings because it's going to put us in front of the Utah Jazz. So actually, if you want to read into this or kind of look at how this has played out, I do think Doug Christie, whether it's bad coach or tanking, the fact that it got brought to the attention of the league probably is going to help the Utah Jazz in some form.
By the way, Buddy the Beagle went on to be attacked by a mountain lion and survived it.
Oh, good. A survivor. Terminator.
He went through a lot, and he died of old age.
Good for Buddy.
Yeah, showed up on my uncle's doorstep. He lived in Montana. Buddy had a big old chunk taken out of his butt. So my uncle took him into the vet, and the vet's like, yeah, that's a mountain lion.
Mountain lion.
That's a mountain lion right there.
Why were you letting Buddy go out by himself?
I would love to see the film of how Buddy got away from a mountain lion, to be honest. Buddy was not an athletic beagle
There's no such thing as athletic beagle, so yeah.
in any way, shape, or form.
Waddled away.
I hated that dog so much. Just begged. Was a begging dog.
Yeah.
My cousin would just feed half his dinner to the dog, and it's like, you're creating this problem.
Yeah. That's where the tumors came from.
I don't know about that.
Not supposed to be eaten that way.
Really?
It's not good for dogs. They really can only digest a certain few kinds of foods.
So one of the things Buddy survived was my uncle put him on Atkins because it really works well for my uncle.
Yeah, it does.
So
you'll cut a lot of weight if you're a human.
Buddy was looking pretty portly, so my uncle's like, well, that's bacon every meal of the day for Buddy too.
Yeah.
And Buddy was very large before he realized that maybe Atkins not the best diet for dogs.
Okay. Maybe we need to give them the things that are in every pet food. That's the thing. It is easy to feed dogs. Just give them the normal pet food.
Oh, they just grind up cardboard or something?
Yeah. Horse meat and cardboard.
What a combo. A lot of fiber. Stay tuned. Oh, we have giveaway.
Yeah.
All right. Let's give away some tickets. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We're hooking you up. Oh, with Mammoth tickets.
Yep.
Pair of lower bowl tickets to see the Mammoth and the Jets. Their home game next Tuesday, the 16th, at the Delta Center. Puck drops at 6 o'clock. So caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. We're checking into the Masters with Bob Casper next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson
1, 2, 3, move it.
on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This 2026 Masters Update live from Augusta is brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ed, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're going to check in with Bob Casper of Real Golf Radio coming up here in a matter of moments. The Masters is underway. Sean Burns has moved into a tie for the lead with Patrick Reed at 4 under par. Tommy Fleetwood is one shot back at 3 under. There's a bunch of guys, including Rory and Xander Schauffele at 2 under par.
We talked about it yesterday. I'll be curious what Bob says. The par 3 tournament, which has always been maybe the most lighthearted aspect of the Masters, and the kids get out there and play and disqualify their golfer parents or whatever. But you did see, it wasn't Travis Kelce, it was Jason Kelce showed up. Kevin Hart was there. I do think we are starting to see a little bit of that. We were talking about how sacred the Masters is. We are starting to see more, I guess, kind of silliness bleeding in more and more. And it did seem like there was a pushback. It seemed like some people did not like having kind of the goofiness of these celebrities popping up out of nowhere.
Well, they told Armpit he couldn't come, right?
Oh, was that true?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it makes sense why he's not there right now.
All right, joining us now, co-host of Real Golf Radio each and every Saturday morning alongside Brian Taylor. He's our buddy, Bob Casper. What's up, Bob?
Hey, boys. What's happening? We got some golf we're playing.
Yeah, what have you seen? I know it's still extremely early, but what are you seeing from the course and who's out there?
Well, there's, 15 guys under par right now. The course giveth and the course taketh away. Bryson DeChambeau just made a triple bogey on number 11 and then hit it long on number 12, the par 3 down in Amen Corner. And so it's going to be interesting to see what he winds up with on 12, but he's not too happy right now. But it's, there's some great golf being played. Sam Birds and Patrick Reed are both at 4 under par, and Rory is playing well. He's at a couple under pars, and Schauffele's at a couple under par. It's all good, for that morning wave of players that have gone out.
Is Patrick Reed the easiest guy to root against on tour?
Yeah, I would say probably yes. But he's the kind of guy that he just likes to be the villain. He just likes to kind of go under the radar, and he's no longer with Live Golf, and he won a couple of times on the European Tour. He's a past champion here, and he loves this place. And he got out to 5 under par through 9 holes and bogeyed the 10th hole, but he's currently 4 under par, and he's just going along, just minded his own business and playing some great golf.
Who is the most understood golfer on the tour in your experience?
The most understood?
Misunderstood, excuse me.
Misunderstood. I don't know. It's most of the guys aren't. They're actually, in today's world, in today's game, everybody kind of talks. They don't have answers that are just kind of rote. Tiger would only give you so much. And, a guy like Scotty, he wears his whole being and what he believes and the way he plays and stuff like that on his sleeve. And guys, the younger generation is more vocal. It's really cool to watch them. But as far as misunderstood, I think, I would say, and I don't know, it's just something that I've seen lately with Bryson. He came out, he got big, he started hitting it long. He said that his par was 67 here, and which is 5 under par. And he comes out this week and he said, I'm learning more. I want to, with my YouTube channel, I want to help the new generation of kids and stuff like that. And to see him do that 180 turnaround, I was like, okay, now I understand you a little bit better, because before you were just a cocky golfer, and I think he's a little bit more misunderstood right now than what he was before with his attitude and everything before.
Well, staying on DeChambeau, and we have the coverage up here in the background. It was funny to see him take multiple shots to get out of the bunker. But I read that he's making his own club now. He's like with a 3D printer, and he's been insane about his clubs, right? He switched to Cobra, I think, because they'd let him do whatever he wants. Phil Mickelson strikes me as a golfer that you just hand him a bag of clubs, he's going to go out and make it happen. You know what I mean? Is Bryson too OCD about this, or does this actually matter?
Well, that's the kind of person he is. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily play by feel. He plays by he gets as much information into his brain as he can, and he's figured out how he can play with getting all this data and all these data points and everything. There are golf companies out right now that have printers, 3D printers. And they make golf clubs with a printer and not not like the normal standard was with castings and all that kind of thing. Brian and I saw that 3D printer making a club down at Cobra in Carlsbad about a year ago, and it's really, really interesting to see how that's done. And if it's done at 3D printing, then he can input all the data, input all the points and everything, and make every club exactly kind of how he wants it. And he's always trying to figure things out and get better with just his equipment. And so sometimes I can't do that. I've got to be able to swing more on feel and that kind of thing. And I think most players are like that. He just kind of takes it to a new level.
So looking at the weather coming up this weekend, what's expected? How's the course going to play?
Oh, it's low 70s, mid to low 70s today. It's going to be mid to high 70s tomorrow, and then on the weekend it's going to be the forecast is calling for 84 each day. There's not going to be any rain. There's not going to be any weather. There's going to be breeze and wind and that kind of thing, but it's supposed to be beautiful this week. It's the first time it's happened in like 15 years that we're not expecting any weather or rain or anything here throughout the tournament days. So it's going to be interesting to see how this golf course firms up, what they do with it, if they're able to make it more difficult as the weekend goes along and dry it out and just make it harder to get closer to the hole and shoot good scores.
Did you see that Darren Ravel Bozo was clowning the food at the Masters, Bob? I don't know if you saw that. Is the food good? I mean, you brought some for us that one year, the COVID year. We got to try like the egg salad sandwich. What's your go-to? Is the food good? Yeah,
I think it's great. I mean, it's not something you want every day for your diet or anything like that. But there's lots of sandwiches. The cheese, the pimento cheese sandwich, the egg salad sandwich, those are like $1.50. You've got some other sandwiches like the chicken sandwich and the chicken salad and the ham and cheese and ham and Swiss or whatever. And, those run the highest, they run $3. So yeah, if he's pranking on the concessions and the sandwiches and stuff like that, all you have to do is look at how much they cost. I mean, they really do it up right here for the patrons and allow them to be able to spend all their money in the merchandise tent and be able to have some money left over so that they can have some lunch or whatever when they're at the golf course.
Bob, we appreciate you and all your fine work. We'll be listening, of course, to the rest of today and tomorrow and Saturday morning for sure.
Sounds good, guys.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Take care.
That is our buddy Bob Casper of Real Golf Radio, which is brought to you by Mountain America Credit Union, Mountain Land Supply, Black Desert Resort, Hoops Vision, and Uinta Golf. Yeah, if it's $1.50.
Yeah, they can feed you nothing.
Yeah, you can't clown it that much.
Yeah. Well, Darren Ravel is a clown, and he clowns everything.
Is he? What's his story? He's not with ESPN anymore, right?
No, I don't know. He was a numbers guy and a source guy and quickly worked his way out of favor.
Always seemed fairly unlikable.
And I think that was very accurate. He was very unlikable.
Very unlikable.
Yep.
All right. Stay tuned. We will wrap up the Jake and Ben Show. Coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The sports you love. The teams you can't live without.
Get a sense of urgency!
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Two niggas on the airways, talking sports. They got him Matrix and also loves his tie-dye. Ben's got style with his scarves. Oh my.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Join my guy, Scotty G, coming up tomorrow from noon to 3 at Tim Daly Mazda, 10785 South Auto Mall Drive in Sandy. Go tell Scotty what you think of the Aggies right to his face. The more aggressive, the better.
Okay. Probably, I think most people are pretty into the Aggies.
I mean, like, give him a hot false lev tape, but just scream it at him.
Boy, we have not talked enough about how they're retaining Mason Falslev. That's a huge coup. That is a big, big time win as they get ready to move into the Pac-12.
Yeah. Sam Merrill, now Mason Falslev. I mean, people are loyal to Utah State for some reason.
Yep. They officially joined coming up on July 1st and having Falslev. And, yeah, it's the face of your roster coming back. It's going to give them an opportunity to continue to compete. That's a win for Jacobson in his first season.
You know, we get so caught up in talking about the money and why players play places and, it's the money. And I guess I'm not trying to downplay it, but I do think that their basketball culture plays to their advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I think, it's not an accident that Sam Merrill was an Aggie guy. He was an Aggie. He grew up wanting to play there. Now, Mason Falslev has been a little bit different, but playing for a team that has that culture and plays in that environment, and it inspires loyalty. You want to play in front of those fans. I think there is something to that. If you want to parlay it into a Utah basketball discussion, you can talk about the chicken and the egg. What comes first, the atmosphere and the culture or the winning? And we can all debate that, right? But leaving a program when you're playing in front of dozens of people that could barely care is a lot easier than leaving a program that's full of,
dedicated diehards.
A few thousand people that go every single night and know everything about you and scout the opposing players' personal lives so they can ridicule them so badly. Like, that inspires a little loyalty, that people want to play there.
I don't think it's a coincidence that Utah went and hired Alex Jensen in an effort to bring back the culture that they had in the late 90s. Now, I don't think that's the right way to do it, but I do think that was part of the reason. That doesn't mean I think Alex Jensen's the wrong hire. We'll see. The year one obviously didn't work out at all, nor do I think it was expected to.
He should lean more into that then.
But I agree with you because I don't get a sense of that in the slightest.
He doesn't. It's almost like he's running from it. He should lean more into it.
But he is not a rah-rah guy.
No. Nor should the coach have to be.
No. But he does not bring that natural charisma as far as like a let's go back and relive the glory days of the 90s. And so if you're trying to rebuild that culture, I think Alex Jensen fits the name because he was on those teams. I'm not sure he actually fits the mold of the guy who's going to go out there and do that. Where on the flip side, what I will say is if you're trying to maintain culture, Morgan Scalley maintains the culture of Utah football for the last 2 decades because he's been integral to it. And that's not going to go away. So that's going to be a real advantage Utah has on the football field is it's going to continue to feel like Utah that has been developed or that's going to feel like the same Utah program that's been developed over the last 2 decades. No question about it.
Having juice matters. On the Alex thing, though, he should lean more into it because he hasn't done that really at all. He should have hired Andre Miller, even if Andre is the worst coach out there, which I don't think he is.
You may know more about it than I do. I don't think that was an Alex Jensen problem.
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. The whole program should be leaning into it, honestly. And Alex not being a rah-rah guy does not matter because Alex is a character in the minds of Ute fans. Whether it's his personality or not doesn't really matter because I'm not trying to insult Alex here, I guess, but he was the Joe Ingles of those Ute teams, meaning that he was the fan favorite even though he wasn't the best player. And so parlay that momentum. But I watched Jim Boylan scream "Go Utes" at the fan base, and he was a terrible coach. So I mean, it all,
you can't have one without the other.
It all leads. You have to put all the pieces together. But if you want to attract players, big time players that want to play big time college basketball, you have to have a big time environment. And Utah does not have that.
But Utah State does.
And BYU does.
Yeah, big time.
So how does Utah get that back without having a great team? You could talk about how the Huntsman Center was sold out during the 90s, which is kind of true. But those teams were going to the tournament every year. Yep. Those teams were either winning or coming close to winning the conference every single year. So what was it? Was it the good team that begat the great atmosphere, or was it the great atmosphere that begat the good team?
Is it
that simple?
Alex is going to have some luck. And I do think luck happens for every team in college basketball for the most part. But where Utah is, what it sounds like their financial tools are to recruit to the basketball team, which sounds like it's almost next to nothing, they're going to have to bring in a couple of dudes who transfer in and just hit a spark, and it really works out for that season and reinvigorates the organization. or the fan base to come and support it, and they make a tournament run. I don't know how to do that other than, just like a couple of the guys fit perfectly. Because you're right, if you're recruiting and you're making 4 stops and you're going to games, Utah's going to finish dead last in that every single time. It feels like every other building you go into is going to be more supportive of their basketball team. And again, I don't blame the fans. This has been a 20-year process of this thing becoming more and more degraded.
It stands out more in the Big 12, too, because you have more motivated fan bases in the Big 12 than you did the Pac-12.
Absolutely. No, you've got to go out and be the best offer for a lot of kids, which is a bad sign.
Yeah.
If you're a kid's best offer, it means he's probably not proven that he can play at your level yet, and then you've got to hope a couple of those guys really exceed expectations.
Can I change topics on you real quick?
Please do.
You drafted NFL commissioner as one of your dream non-player jobs in sports. And I said, well, you'd have to be pure evil and just a terrible person, which is true, but is also true about other organizations.
Uh-huh.
What do you think about this? So FIFA, who's putting on the World Cup in North America this summer, has kind of been in the headlines a lot for overcharging and how much they're charging for tickets and all of that sort of thing. Well, you ready for their latest shenanigans, which is kind of funny? So you had to apply for tickets and all that stuff. So they created a tier system, 1, 2, or 3, based on how much they were going to cost. And it's pretty funny. If you look at the map that they sent out there, basically the entire lower bowl of this stadium fell into the number 1 category. The number 2 category is like the upper bowl in the middle. And then the number 3 is like in the wings or whatever. So it's kind of a general map. Well, it was a little bit different when they initially set it out, Ben. So what was tier 1, it was a little bit more complex. So you know what FIFA has done is they've changed the map.
Okay.
So now you bought tier 1 and you're getting stuck with a stinky seat.
For tickets that have already been sold.
That have already been sold, basically. So you were sold like a premium seat, but they bumped it down too. Like tier 2, you thought you were getting an okay seat. Well, you're just basically barely in the building now. So in order to basically charge more money for the premium tickets, they changed the map on people and put them into crappy seats.
You're right. You just have to not care about people to run some of these organizations. You just have to say the customer absolutely falls dead last. The only thing I care about is making as much money as possible, and that is actually my job, and that's what I care about over what anyone's ever going to say about me. But I'm going to get paid millions, and I'm going to disappear when I decide I want to disappear.
Now, these practices, like I would say ethically, that's not cool to change. But I do sympathize a little bit with FIFA, and really you can throw in professional organizations into this. I remember when the Jazz were raising ticket prices on the upper bowl and people were really bent out of shape. And I talked to someone over there, and they were telling me that part of the problem is the secondary market, is that you look at the secondary market and tickets are going for so much that a lot of, at that particular time, I don't know what it is now, this is, 5-6 years ago, but that half their season ticket holders in the upper bowl were just ticket brokers who were selling it for a tidy profit on the secondary market. And so the Jazz in this case looked at that and said, well,
that should be our profit.
That should be our profit. The actual price of the ticket is not what we're setting.
Right.
The actual price of the ticket is what they are getting.
What anyone's willing to pay.
And so we don't want to price out our wonderful season ticket holders in the upper bowl, but at the same time, we're getting the shaft here.
Right.
And I get that. Like FIFA, I'm sure, looks at the secondary market, which is bananas. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars for these tickets and saying, well, why aren't we putting that money in our pocket? Now, FIFA isn't necessarily supposed to be a for-profit entity, right? So I have a lot less sympathy for FIFA than I do for, say, the Jazz.
Yes.
But look at some of the stuff on the secondary market. You wonder why Taylor Swift concerts cost so much money. It's because, well, either that money's going to Ticketmaster or that money's going to whoever on StubHub.
Yeah. And ultimately, who gets hurt?
Oh, as always, it's the fan.
The fan.
As always.
The everyman. Yeah, it always rolls downhill. That's who ends up paying more for it, whether it's the Jazz raising their tickets or the secondhand market raising its tickets or Taylor Swift fans or whoever. Yeah, that's always who it hurts. And the problem is, if Taylor were to say, you know what, I want to be a good person I'm going to drop my tickets. I'm going to make them super affordable. Then the only people who buy them are the ticket brokers.
Yeah.
Again, it's the exact same problem you're talking about. I mean, it is why. I mean, what you have to do ultimately would be to get rid of ticket brokers or scalpers, we used to call them.
Which used to be illegal,
It was illegal
in some states. Never this state.
Never this state.
Interestingly enough.
Yeah.
That's why, man, half the people who came to the O2 Olympics had to be ticket scalpers.
Yeah.
You had to walk through an army of them just to get to an event. But now it's a much different deal. That I don't know how you could regulate that. Kind of, I guess, for this discussion, kind of related, the Justice Department is going after the NFL. Now, I think this is kind of ridiculous. They're threatening to take away an exception. The Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which allowed leagues to package all of their television rights and sell them as a bundle, which I guess goes against antitrust laws. But there's this exception, and the Department of Justice
Department of Justice
is threatening to take away that exception because they say it's too expensive to be able to watch football now. I honestly don't think this will stand up, but this is at least the federal government. Kind of funny they're picking the NFL, trying to stop that. They're saying that it costs $1,500 a year in just subscription fees to watch every pro football game.
And this is your guy, Mike Lee, right?
I think it is Mike Lee.
Mike Lee's big push.
He's your guy too, pal. You live here.
Correct. I am.
He's the head of the antitrust committee, which is why he's involved.
Well, I think antitrust is very important, and I hope it is enforced broadly and not selectively.
But this, I don't think, is going to go anywhere. I mean, they're not going to take away their exemption for the NFL. Can you imagine the lobbying power in NFL ownership groups alone? I mean, it's never going to happen. But this is at least an attempt from the federal government to address this kind of problem. Hasn't Mike Lee gone after Ticketmaster before, too? I just don't know what you do about it.
Has to be completely unrelated. Amazon, an exec, also says they expect to be able to stream the Super Bowl in the fullness of time, meaning they think in due time they're going to be able to get the Super Bowl.
I would love it for
Completely
everything
unrelated.
to stay over the air. I hate the subscription fees, but I
could not believe that the NCAA tournament championship game was not on CBS.
Oh, ludicrous!
I could not believe that. I didn't realize
outrageous.
it. I didn't realize it. And this is my job. I didn't realize it that I had my subscription. I upped my subscription specifically to be able to watch the tournament. I could not believe I had to keep it for the last weekend to watch the Final Four and the championship game.
Outrageous!
Yep. It's crazy.
But what are you going to do? I mean, we talk about how college sports is $1 billion industry. Sports in general, billions and billions and billions of dollars, and they're just trying to figure out how to shake more out of the fan.
Yep.
They figured out that they've got a market of people willing to spend money.
Yep.
And now it's just let's see how far we can take it.
Yep.
Too bad. Scotty G and friends coming up next. Stay tuned. Jake and
Thanks,
Ben,
Sean.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.